we explain why our protection scheme should itself be protected. This is Mr. Peters. Every month, like many people in Germany, he transfers money to his savings account for later, for his car, his next holiday, or just to fall back on. At the bank, the money is safe and sound. But why can he take that for granted? The banks build on the trust of their depositors. After all, banks put that money to work. But to make sure it's returned safely to Mr. Peters when he needs it, there are deposit guarantee schemes. The ones in Germany are exemplary. The cooperative bank system, for example, protects not only customers' deposits, but also the individual financial institutions from the possibility of any trouble. Because bank deposit safety is important not only for depositors but also for financial stability, since 2015, all the countries in the EU have been required to have deposit guarantee schemes. A minimum protection of €100,000 per depositor is mandatory. That's what the EU directive says. That's easy for German cooperative banks, which have been saving up funds for decades. This Europe-wide standard is a good thing, but it still hasn't been implemented everywhere. In the meantime, the EU has come up with another new idea. It wants to convert all the national deposit guarantee schemes into one unified European system. What does that mean for Mr. Peters? At the moment, some countries like Germany have their own chock-full insurance pots, so if one bank does poorly, the money from that pot balances out the deficit. However, in the future, all the different EU countries' pots are to be combined into one big one. That way, every country can access this deposit protection money on behalf of any of their banks. Of course, supporting each other in times of need is a good thing, but there's a big catch. Not every EU country's deposit protection is as well developed as Germany's. For many of them, this system is new and their insurance pots aren't full yet. In an emergency, that would mean that the insurance money intended for Mr. Peters' deposits would flow to countries with less insured finances. This would drastically hurt Mr. Peters' trust in the safety of his deposits, along with that of many other German bank customers. Because even though Europe is a community, each country within it is independent, with its own laws, its own tax systems, and its own economic policies. Before the EU takes the step of collectivizing deposit protection, we first need a shared foundation for both our economies and our financial policies. Ultimately, in order to protect each other, we all need to be equally strong. So before we start thinking about mutualizing deposit guarantee schemes within the EU, the countries first need to develop their own deposit protection schemes according to a pan-European standard and fill them with money. So far, only 14 countries have done this. That's why German cooperative banks are standing firm by individual responsibility. Their deposit guarantee fund has been keeping them safe reliably for decades, and Mr. Peters can still place his trust in that.